Today we're going to be talking about the three biggest mistakes I see students make over and over again in college admissions. And we're going to tell you how to fix them as well. Hello, and welcome to the Admittedly podcast. My name is Thomas Caleel. I'm the former director of MBA admissions and financial aid for my alma mater, the Wharton School at the University of Pennsylvania. In this podcast, I don't promise easy answers or quick fixes, but I will use my decades of experience to help you achieve your education goals. Now let's get started. Hello, and welcome to the Admittedly podcast. I'm your host, Thomas Caleel, and today we're going to be talking about the three biggest mistakes I see students make over and over again in college admissions. And we're going to tell you how to fix them as well. Those are no story, no strategy, and no ownership. We're going to break each of those down. I'm going to talk about them at length, but I want to pause for a moment and say thank you so much for following us, following the podcast, following us on socials at AdmittedlyCo. That's at AdmittedlyCo on Instagram and TikTok. Thank you for visiting the website, www.admittedly.co. We've got a lot of great free resources there, and I really encourage you to visit, download them, take advantage of them. Thank you as well for commenting, interacting with us on social media. I love hearing from you. I love to hear your opinions, your thoughts, whether you agree with me, disagree with me. I'm always in there engaging in the DMs and the comments. You see a comment on there, it is from me, and I have a lot of fun in there. I love helping students. I love going kind of toe-to-toe with people who disagree with me because I really believe in honest discourse. I respect other people's opinions, and I want to hear from you. But let's talk about now the three biggest mistakes that most students will make. And the first one is no story. Now, what do I mean by no story? No story means you're kind of just doing a random walk. Now, my Wharton peeps, random walk down Wall Street. Hey, that's great. It's a wonderful finance theorem. However, a random walk down high school does not lead to optimal education outcomes if you're targeting highly selective schools. What do I mean by that? Well, what I mean by that is that actually story building starts in middle school. It starts when you're looking at math placement, English class placement. Are you setting yourself up for success? Are you learning how to study, how to process information, how to write, how to develop a coherent and cohesive argument in class? Are you on a quantitative track that's going to put you where you want to be? If you want to be in business or finance or engineering, you need to be taking AP Calc BC junior year at the latest. My top students are taking it sophomore year. And I don't say that to freak you out. I'm saying that so that you understand, this is the competitive set, right? They are talking about things that matter to them. And part of that is math. I love math. Can't get enough of math. But if you are not on that track and you're trying to convince a highly selective school that you've always thought about math, you need to understand about the pool that you're putting yourself in, because you're competing against students who live and breathe math since day one. So you have to think about, okay, what matters to me? What are my values? What is it that I want to spend my time doing every day? We're not doing a million things. We're doing fewer things, but we're doing them intentionally and well and with depth and meaning. Now, for those of you who have not seen Steve Jobs' commencement speech at Stanford, where he talks about looking backwards and understanding how you are where you are now by looking backwards, go watch it. It's on YouTube. It's phenomenal. And there's certainly an element of that, of being able to look back and say, okay, I am here. I'm interested in this because I did this, 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 and this. The key here, though, right, is that you cannot leave that to fate. You have to be proactive. Now, you may be proactive and take a step and realize, ooh, that was a misstep. I should have gone left when I went right. And so you can always correct that. You can course correct it and then talk about it in your application and say to the admissions officer, hey, this is why I made this decision. This is what I did when I made the decision. This is why it did not work out for me. And this is how I adjusted course and why I'm here now saying this. That is a fantastic arc and a fantastic journey of introspection and self-awareness and ability to deal with setbacks. It's a great story. And you can absolutely tell that. So we're not saying to you, you're locked in, you have to decide in 6th grade what you want to be for the rest of your life and then just relentlessly follow that. That's boring. Nobody wants to admit a student like that. They want students who have made conscious choices, who have made mistakes, for lack of a better term, and have learned from those mistakes and can bring that awareness to the class and the university environment. The second one is no strategy. And usually that involves students who just spread themselves horizontally. So they're signing up for all the clubs. And look, freshman year, sign up for all the clubs. Have fun, try things, meet people, get integrated in the community. But then you have to be ruthless. By the end of freshman year or right at the beginning of sophomore year, I need you to divest those things that no longer serve you. I need you to be really honest. I need you to look at your schedule and say, yeah, I have friends in this club, I kind of have a passing interest in the club, but it's not worth the investment of time. I can't tell you how many students I've talked to who've said, well, I'm just going to keep that club as like an hour a week. And I'm going to keep that club because it's an hour a week. And what I do is I'm taking notes. I'm like, you realize I'm just going to keep doing this to about 5 hours a week of commitments. What could you do with that 5 hours? And you can just see it like register on their face and like, oh, wow, like I didn't even think about that those hours add up. And so we'll say to them, why don't you take those 5 hours and devote them over here to this activity that you truly love? And it's this awareness where they're like, oh, yes. And you're like, look, you need to be proactive. You need to take ownership. You need to have strategy with what you're doing. Again, we're not over strategizing. And so if you're a math competitor, for example, and you're doing math Olympiads and you're doing problems, you're doing all these things, but you love to play the cello and that's how you relax and connect with yourself, do that, right? But you don't need to join 6 other clubs just to show that you co-founded this club or you founded this club. And I hate this conventional wisdom that a lot of people tell you, like, oh, you have to start a club, you have to start a club. I can see through immediately when I see somebody's resume or I see somebody's activity list, I can look at something and be like, performative passion project. Because there's no depth, there's no connection to anything you're doing. You're not talking about it in your essays. You're doing it 1 or 2 hours a week. You maybe build this website. Don't do it. Do the things that matter to you. Do them deeply, intentionally, and well, please. The final issue here, and this is really, really important, is no ownership, a lack of ownership. You let other people take control of your journey. What do I mean by that? I mean, it can be a parent oftentimes. And parents, I am one of you. I have a high school senior. I have a high school freshman. So I understand the desire, the impetus to jump in and problem solve for your child. But the reality here is that we need to let these students, these young adults, these teenagers find their path, find their voice. I get a lot of pushback on social media, people telling me that, oh, no 17-year-old cares about the world around them. No 17-year-old knows what they want to do or what they care about or what they're interested in. And I got to tell you, I see a lot of comments. I get a lot of negative comments and pushback, and I love it and I welcome it. These are the comments that drive me crazy, and these are the ones I jump on with both feet. Because the students that I've met, the students that I've worked with, do have a voice. They do have an interest. They care deeply about the things that they are doing. They love what they're doing. They're passionate about the world around them. They want to make a change. They want to be seen. They want to be heard. And so to dismiss them out of hand like that is unconscionable and it absolutely does them a disservice. So students, take control of your journey. One of the things we do a lot of when we're working with families actually is create some distance and some space. We hold space for the student separate from the parents. We want the parents' involvement. We want your perspective. Obviously, the most successful students I've ever had have had a supportive family unit around them. But the best parents are the ones who can allow the student to explore and voice their own interests so that we can come in and say, okay, you're interested in this? Great. Let's talk about ways that we can create structures and systems and paths around that, how you can do that and to get yourself to where you want to be so that when it comes time to apply, you have a compelling narrative. You have a story that's your own voice. And it's not like, well, my mom told me to do this or my teacher told me to do this. It's that I decided to do this. I sought out this opportunity. I applied for it. I got it. I worked really hard. And you can tell as a trained reader immediately in an essay if this is something that the parents set up for them and did for them essentially, or if the student took the initiative. That's why admissions officers love things like jobs, because parents can't do the job for the child. If your child has a job at McDonald's, they're doing that job at McDonald's. Mom can't come in and run the fryer halfway through the shift. And so when you see that they've worked there for 6 months, 9 months, a year, 2 years, you're like, okay, discipline, character, grit, problem solving, all of those things that go into that is an absolutely beautiful thing. Likewise, don't let your peers, don't let your friends influence what you're doing. Like it's great to say, yeah, I like to do this club because my friends are in it. And that's wonderful. But if you have something you love doing and your friends just aren't down for it, if you love to, if you like to volunteer, if you like to work, if you like to draw, whatever it is, do that. Because once you get to university, honestly, nobody cares what you do, right? You can be yourself, do your own thing. And I know it's hard to do that in high school, right? There's a lot of peer pressure. There's a lot of self-discovery. There's a lot of just trying to figure out who you are and how you exist in this world. But I promise you, please be an individual, be yourself. And when you come to the admissions, the application process, you will have a strong voice, a true voice, a clear voice in your essays that cannot be faked. The last group of people I would suggest you look out for are counselors, admissions advisors who have kind of a one-size-fits-all policy. And for those of you who are talking to admissions advisors or following people on the internet, you know what I mean. There are admissions advisors who will say, there's no real answer to that question because this is the range of things that admissions officers are going to look at. And there are other ones that are like, here's my patented blueprint for success. If you do this, it's going to work. There's no such thing. If there were an algorithm, I would publish the algorithm and tell you, good luck, go get them. It's that simple. But it's not, right? Is a 1480 SAT good or bad? It depends. Is a 3.6 GPA good or bad? It depends. What's your background? What's the context? What's your history? Do you struggle with anything? Do you have learning accommodations? All of those things come together, right? I don't play a sport. Is that good or bad? Well, I don't know. What else are you doing with your time? How are you making an impact? Oh, you spend your 20 hours a week building this volunteering organization that you co-founded. Yeah, that's great. So I want you to understand that there is no checklist here. And the minute that you submit yourself to that, the minute that you relinquish control, you have no ownership over your path and your decisions. You're letting somebody else make those decisions for you. I have seen over and over again in my 20 plus years in admissions, you get these students who look great on paper. And you get them to the application process and they have nothing to say. They have no personality. They have no ability to make a decision because they haven't made the decisions that have led them here. And so when you really press them on things, you press them on their story, on their strategy, you ask them to be introspective, they simply can't do it. And you can fake that for part of the essay, but the reality is the entirety of the application, you're not going to fake that. And you're putting yourself at a tremendous disadvantage. So remember, right, the three biggest mistakes: you don't have a story, you don't have a strategy, and you don't have ownership over yourself, your life, and where you are going and how you are living your true, authentic life, and then presenting that to admissions. And for those of you who are going to come at me and say, my child doesn't really know what they want, I understand that. I agree with you. Have them listen to our podcast. We are here to help them discover who they are. And it's not this big epiphany where you know exactly who you are and what you're going to do for the rest of your life. I meet adults every day who don't know the answer to that question. But it's like, what is that thing that does interest you, that we can lean in on, that we can go deeper on, that you can own and take responsibility for and drive the discovery process so that you learn something about yourself in the process. And when we get to the admissions point, when we are writing those essays, you have something to talk about. You have something interesting to share that helps differentiate you from the tens of thousands of other students who have done the academics, they've done the testing, and they don't have the strong story that you do. I've got a lot more to say on this. Please follow weekly free podcasts, Social media content every day at AdmittedlyCo, at AdmittedlyCO on Instagram and TikTok. And we do a free monthly webinar. I really encourage you to sign up, join us. It's a lot of fun. We answer a lot of questions. And visit our website, www.admittedly.co. We've got a lot of really great free resources there for you. I believe in empowering students and families to make the best decision. If you want to work with us, we love that. But at the end of the day, we want you to be successful. We want you to find your best path. Thank you for listening. I appreciate you. I look forward to reading your feedback in the comments and DMs on social media. We'll talk more soon. Thank you for joining us today. Please take a moment to subscribe to the Admittedly podcast and download this episode. I welcome you to share your thoughts and questions with me. You can find us on social media at Admittedly Podcast. I look forward